Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're playing RimWorld. I've never played RimWorld before, which is why I've issued myself the challenge to try and survive 100 days. I think if I can make it to 100 days, then I've proven that I understand the game at least a little bit, and I have a chance of playing it further on. That being said, I'm going to start with the tutorial, because we saw what happened last time that I skipped the tutorial. As a result, my world is going to be pretty standard, only being 30% global coverage with the normal settings. Although, looking back, I wish I had turned on mechanoids and insects. It seems like a pretty cool thing, and I don't know if I can still run into those factions now that they're not checked. After being forced to settle here, it was time to set up the squad, starting out strong with a cannibal who is volatile, deaf, and unwilling to do chores. Thank God they have this button. Of course, that was only for her to be replaced with an asexual, tortured artist. After looking through some more, I finally came across a father-daughter relationship, which I thought was cute, so I had to keep them. I also thought it would only be fitting that we name the dad after one of my viewers, Dad Hacks Central. And as I mentioned, we're of course keeping the daughter, who will be named Pax Panda. And last but not least on the squad was Glumbus, who I basically only said yes to because there was not that many words on the screen. With our squad established, we began the tutorial, which I will speed up a little bit so you don't have to watch me struggle trying to press WASD. The tutorial gave me a pretty decent beginning understanding of the game, but my biggest gripe was how rigid it was. If your current goal was to build walls, it wouldn't let you do anything else, even if I was just trying to look at a character's stats. I also didn't really like the layout of the base that they made me do, and again, it was very rigid. I couldn't change anything about that. But either way, I kept on pushing through, completing the objectives, and eventually made it to the final part of the tutorial, which is some good old-fashioned combat. In this case, we're fighting Andy the engineer from the Bomb Men squad, who quite literally brought a knife to a gunfight, and also showed up naked, so you can only imagine what happened to him. And just like that, we have finally completed the tutorial, which means we get to decide our fate. After reading about each of the storytellers, I decided to go with the random one, since I felt like games like this should always be random. I also decided to move up the difficulty just one notch, which hopefully I don't regret. The first thing I did after being free was expand. My storage was already getting full, and I haven't even started playing the game yet. Also, the tutorial may be over, but the game has kept my training wheels on and is advising me to build shelves, so that's what I'm gonna do. In the meantime, while those are getting built, I need to address the naked man who has keeled over in my front lawn and try to bring him inside. Of course, this is when I found out that I have to build a prison cell first. So very lazily, I decided to just throw a bed up in the storage room, and I'll make that double as our prison cell for now. In hindsight, I should have just put him in one of our beds, but I didn't think about how long it would take to build a room almost the same size as our entire base was at this point. And rather than do that, or even try to heal Andy, I simply let him pass away while I was building his bedroom. This next part makes me question my own morals. I'm hovering over Andy's body, confused why my only option is to be a cannibal and eat him raw. And I'm clicking on the kitchen stove, trying to figure out how to cook him, because for some reason in my mind, I was thinking if we cook him first, then it's not cannibalism. I even looked into a freezer to hold the body until we could eat it. I've been on this planet for 5 hours, and for some reason I'm already contemplating eating a dead guy. Realizing that I have already been reduced to a caveman mentally, I decided that some intellectual studying should help me. So I opened up the research tab, which seemed to only confirm that I am actually a caveman, as I have no idea what half of these words even mean. So like the caveman I am, I clicked on the one word that I do know, which was trees. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to wallow in my stupidity very long, because I was immediately attacked by the these guys, which was actually just one guy with a bow. So slightly more dangerous than our previous adversary, Andy, but still no match for a squad of gunmen. Luckily, he didn't die, and using our previous knowledge and recently developed prison cell, we were able to acquire our first prisoner. Hopefully, we can convince him to join us, because if he doesn't, I'm gonna sell his organs. Despite our great victory over Spider, I am still very bad at the combat in this game and don't totally understand it. As you can see by me punching a ram to death with my bare hands, even though I have a revolver literally in my pocket. As a result of my poor combative skills, 2 out of my 3 people are now out of commission, which of course means that the game should attack me again. That makes sense. But you know what? The game was also kind and sent these 2 lovely individuals who took care of the intruders and let me rest in bed. Once everyone had recovered, it was once again time to build. I'm feeling very cramped in this tiny space, and I want a nice, big expansion with a real prisoner cell and a real bedroom area, not sleeping in the living room and housing a criminal in the Amazon warehouse behind our base. This should also give us more workshop space for tables and benches, as well as storage space since our shelves are beginning to fill up. While all this building was going on, the same faction from before actually came back, this time bearing goods to trade. After staring at the trading screen for 10 minutes trying to figure it out, I eventually bought a bolt-action rifle. I mean, what does this even mean? Positive numbers buy, negative numbers sell. Except that this number is negative, and I'm buying, not selling. So am I buying or selling this rifle? Did I have a rifle I didn't even know about that I'm selling? Who knows? In the end, I was happy for the opportunity to get some better gear. After talking to the trader, I decided it was finally time to redo this horrible barricade that the tutorial put in place for me and open up some free space so I could finally move Andy's corpse out of my living room. Later on, Dad was able to tame 2 more rats, expanding our rat family greatly. I don't think rats actually do anything. If anything, they probably spread the plague, but they're cute, so I'll let them live with us for now. And now, things are going pretty good, I feel like. I'm starting to feel comfortable, and I think I can focus more on some of the trivial things like making a nice tiled bedroom for my people and installing an AC unit, which will be powered by a windmill outside. Just in time, too, as a heat wave has hit our base. I also installed a vent to help them stay cool while sleeping. Also, I think those traders from earlier who visited my base noticed Andy's corpse in the living room and probably reported us, because we have been sent our own personal counselor who refuses to take no for an answer. You know, times like these when we've got a fresh person joining our colony and we're just building, I really feel like I know what's going on. I've got everything handled. Until I notice that Dad is being literally beat to death by a guinea pig. Of course, he was also in the farthest corner of the map, fighting the guinea pig by himself. Despite my efforts, Dad passed away in almost the exact same way as Andy. It was only fitting that his own daughter be the one who bury him and remember his great accomplishments. But as if it was a sign from the great RimWorld gods above, to replace Dad came an illegal spaceship pirate who crashed into our colony. So while I let him rest, I turned to another issue that's been bothering me. Our food has been rotting away. And of course, the game feels bad for me, so it is kindly teaching me how to make a walk-in freezer, which is what we're gonna do. But of course, this means we're gonna have to reorganize and build a bunch of new stuff. Of course, I have once again proven that the tutorial is not idiot-proof, as I installed my AC unit backwards. Not only am I not freezing my food, I'm basically cooking it endlessly in an attempt to make the outside 30 degrees. But honestly, I don't even have time to recognize my mistake, because while I was building it, I also recruited Spider, and then right after that, I was hit with an opportunity to go on a side quest. And of course, I'm gonna take it. Who doesn't want to investigate a stash full of goods? This is like every RPG player's dream. so I sent the only 2 people I have with guns since I figured they'd stand the best chance. I don't know what I expected, but I was confused when I showed up. I did not think it would be just a tiny shack. I looked around the entire map to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and I also didn't see anyone else, so I assumed they must be inside and chose to approach cautiously. And as expected, I was attacked. Ambushed, actually. Which I can't say was a surprise, but what was a surprise was the adversary itself. After losing the fight with the guinea pig earlier, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little concerned. Luckily though, everything worked out in the end and we were able to walk away with only some minor injuries. And with the guard rabbits removed, we could finally go inside and get our loot, which was a masterwork bow and a telescope. Back home, I needed to make some changes. If they were going to be returning with even more shit, I needed to expand my storage area. It was getting cluttered. But that's not the only issue we have going on. Our freezer has the least amount of food in it has had all game, and the temperature still isn't right. It's 78 degrees in there no matter how low I set it, but in my other unit, it's 72 perfectly. So I'm confused what I did wrong. I'm thinking maybe the electricity isn't getting to it, but then I click on it and see the little line that says it is, and then I'm looking at my windmill and it's making power, until finally I notice the little red arrow on the AC unit is facing the wrong way after 7 days of having it powered. So I finally deconstructed it. But this game is just issue after issue. Majora Max is constantly on the verge of breaking down, and that's because they are addicted to drugs, which I didn't know when I let them in. We don't have any drugs here. I never researched that. I don't know how to make those. So I don't know what to do besides put some tiles on the floor and hope that things look nice and make them happy. But as you can imagine, some tiles on the floor does not make up for a severe cocaine addiction, and Majora Max has been sent into a rage, beating her head against walls. There isn't much I can do about this, so I just tended to other matters, like Pax Panda's discovery of a new location, and a boomalope, which has magically become tame. We don't really have any tame animals besides our rats, so I guess we can build them a fenced-in area so they're safe from the wild. While all that was going on back home, I was invited to go out on yet another quest. So once again, I packed up and hit the road in search of some goodies. This time, we were attacked by a man in a loincloth armed with a bow and arrow. He lasted longer than the bunnies, but not by much. So we took the components that now belong to us and headed back home. As a result of our successful raid on the stash, David was also inspired to make this beautiful piece of art that boosts everyone's morale and will maybe help Majora Max feel better about her coke addiction. Remember that place Pax Panda found earlier? I forgot about it. So let's go see what's in it. Wow, this place is pretty cool. I don't even know what half this stuff is, but it's cool to look at, I don't know. I also didn't realize there was going to be bugs in here that wanted to kill me. So I panicked and ran back out towards the base to get backup from the other guys. The fight turned out to be nothing too crazy and the bugs were killed, which meant that we could go back in and destroy the nest, because I assume more bugs can come out of there if I don't take care of it. After that, I let my people rest up before going back in to grab the loot that I saw before I was attacked by the bugs. NANI? This was completely unexpected. I guess I should have seen it coming, but I really thought the bugs had been enough and that I would be free to walk around. I have to give some respect to this game. In most games, I feel like you can walk freely in abandoned buildings with little consequence. It's usually more of an atmospheric thing. But this game feels more like D&D. If you're going to enter a creepy old building, you better roll a perception check and look around. Otherwise, you're getting jumped by cryo soldiers, like I did. With the attacker jet killed, we were finally free, I think, to rescue the leftover people and return them to base. Unfortunately, our medical skills and supplies aren't really good enough to handle this kind of situation. May had an infection in her left leg, which probably could have been prevented if I had amputated, but I didn't even know that you could amputate limbs at this time. And Pax Panda, although they were being treated, ultimately had just been shot too many times and ended up bleeding out. Kevin was actually doing pretty good in his recovery. until he threatened to leave, so I arrested him. And once he was a prisoner, he didn't get as good of care. Yoder is the only one who didn't die and wanted to join. Out with the old and in with the new, I suppose, but I definitely feel like I'm playing the game wrong. Of course, Pax Panda was later buried next to her father, but the game must have felt bad watching me bury all my colonists, because just a couple days later, they sent me the GOAT, Smonk the Great. He may be 84 years old, but he is an intellectual. And if you take a look at my research tab, I literally haven't learned a single thing since the beginning of this game. The only caveat was that if we wanted Smonk, we would have to fight off his attackers. And they went down pretty easy, with one running away. Then later, I found out that a bunch of ducklings would be joining us, so I decided to make another pen for them, away from the Boomalope. Despite being 84 years old, Smonk moved quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Within just a few days of being on the property, he managed to woo Glumbo, which apparently means that they have to sleep together now in a double bed. I felt like this meant that it was probably just time to graduate everyone from an open sleeping hall that they are in now to allowing them to have their own bedrooms. This, of course, would require a pretty big expansion on the bottom of our base, but I was willing to do it for the cute couple. Once everything was said and done, I was able to assign Smonk and Glumbo to the same bed. I can only imagine what happened that night. Okay, everyone chill out. Let's not forget Smonk's real job. He has been working away researching electronics for us, and it's time that we build him a fancy research table. Once again, my storage is filling up quickly, and it's becoming apparent to me that I need to expand. So I built this little cutout behind the farm. But then I realized I didn't really like how it connected to the storage room, so I changed my mind and made it into more bedrooms, and I think I'll just figure out a better solution for the storage later. Because right now, one of our animals has come down with the plague. I don't know if the plague will actually spread to your other animals or not, but out of caution, I had to exile Gary. And just a couple days later, Smonk finally got down on one knee and asked Glumbo to change her last name. But I don't think Smonk actually expected her to say yes, because just 3 hours later, he had a heart attack. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there was anything I could do about it with my current skills, and ultimately, Smonk had to be buried in the backyard. Unfortunately, Smonk's death was also the death of my OBS, which means that I lost like an hour or so of footage, but nothing too crazy, thankfully. Basically, we were attacked by two individuals that we were able to detain and recruit, including Mimu, who's a great researcher and a great animal handler. So we were able to tame some hens and Muffalo and get back to researching. I also continued to expand the bottom part of the base, which I thought would be a good spot to relocate our prison, since it's in a very awkward position right now. Speaking of prisoners, we've got some fresh blood entering our property. This is one of the biggest attacks that has been made on my base so far, but it's also the most people I've ever had, and we all have guns. Paired with my steel barricades, it was a pretty easy fight, especially when half of them run away. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take any prisoner since they all died in the fight, but that doesn't matter. It's time to put our noses to the grindstone. I still haven't researched shit, so we need to hit the books, and hard. Okay, now that I never have to research anything ever again, I can focus on my base. The next thing I want to do is expand my animal pen, because these ducks are fucking like crazy. I also need more space to store the duck eggs, so I'm going to begin working on a second walk-in freezer. I also got back to work on moving the beds down, which would free up some space in our workshop to start building all those tables we researched. Just in time, too, as we're going to need a free bed for our new colonist. A couple days later, we were tasked by the nearby town to grow a lot of weed. But I don't have time in this episode to find out if I can do it, because our 100th day was finally approaching.
Wow!
And there you have it. 100 days in RimWorld. And this is what my base looks like. We've got a pretty good foundation, solar panels, a lot of animals, a couple freezers. I feel like we're doing pretty good. Granted, this was the start from the tutorial, and I've heard this game can be a lot more brutal with a regular start. So let me know if you want me to continue with this save or start a new one. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.